Hey guys, want to bring another YouTube video about the Houston Rockets and James Harden. Looks like it's getting worse. You can see I'm a true Harden fan, but I gotta tell it how it is. Obviously, it doesn't look good, especially with this weekend. Sounds like December 3rd, he went to Lil Baby's birthday party, and then apparently he's been in Las Vegas last day or two, suppose, and it doesn't sound like he wants to be in Houston. Obviously, we could tell based on his action. He missed the first day. They called it COVID protocol. Obviously, now it kind of makes sense with the pictures that surface of him at Lil Baby's birthday party. So obviously, if he's there and not wearing a mask, that is one of the rules. It's almost like you knew the rule. You're not being very professional, especially when the owner in the leagues is telling you how things are supposed to um, be kept or to be able to play. So obviously, it sounds like he doesn't care about playing right now. He is trying to force his way out. Now, there is some things that could work for him. I probably mentioned that a couple of times. Is that because he is playing for Tillman Fertilia, that the owner is pretty cheap or cost um, expense minded, that he will probably look at his bottom line like, well, James Harden's not showing up. We gotta start rebuilding maybe. But the other thing is, if he does not show up by the start of this season, according to Ramona Shelburne and who else? The people at the jump and Rachel Nicholas, that if he does not show up, then his 2 years that he still currently has would carry over. So if he does not show up, it sounds like it will just carry over. So instead of his contract being over by 2023, it would be 2024. So it's not like the NFL, it continues on with the holdout and you're not getting paid. So it is almost beneficial if he is trying to show up, um, to report to camp, be professional, be like what Kobe Bryant did. He wanted to leave the Lakers a while back, but he was such a professional and he cared about his craft that he wanted to work things out ultimately. And I mean, that same year, they won the championship, the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers and the Rockets are similar in that example, but it kind of tells you, it looks like the mindset of Kobe Bryant and James Harden. Another report that's kind of interesting, Russell Westbrook actually showed up 2 hours early for his first practice. So, and you know how the media doesn't really like Russell Westbrook. So, for them to praise him, saying that he showed up 2 hours early, makes me wonder if that is why he did not like playing with James Harden, and the direction of the team not holding him accountable, because that can mess up the environment and the culture if you're seeing the superstar, obviously, because that is the same issues that the Clippers had with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So I just don't see it. It just feels like James Harden is like, the best example is in a relationship would be like a cheating spouse or a cheating boyfriend, girlfriend, looking around other teams thinking, you know what, I don't want to be in this relationship, I want to leave. But yet, you got the owner and the Rockets trying to hold on to that relationship. I just don't see how it's salvageable. I mean, obviously the Lakers worked out, but James Harden hasn't really shown any interest or wanted to be there at this point. I wouldn't be even surprised if he is trying to sabotage the Rockets. So my theory would be, okay, supposedly this is what the media said, that they talked to him about Steven Silas, the current head coach. He said he signed off on that or was okay with that hiring. Then I didn't hear much about Rafael Stone if he was okay with the new GM. Um, but then he supposedly said, "Hey, I would not mind having Russell Westbrook getting traded for John Wall." So every co-star he had to sign off for them. So whether it was Paul George, Dwight Howard, Russell Westbrook, and now John Wall. So I just don't see how he would have not known about this. Um, I just don't see how this relationship's going to work. But then the Rockets are not going to trade him for nothing. It just doesn't make sense. The leverage, I would say the Rockets have 75% leverage and James Harden has 25%. Again, it's based on the 25% would be based on the owner if he thinks based on cost cutting and that it does not make sense to hold them at this point, and it's better to just start all over at this juncture. And then you got 75% knowing, hey, we're not going to have a lot of value if he doesn't play or show up and be professional. So for James Harden and the Rockets, best solution would be James Harden to show up, get as much value that he wants, open up so many different teams that he would be willing to play for. Because I've heard the Warriors are interested supposedly. You've had, who's the other team? The 76ers have shown interest. Supposedly Denver Nuggets shown interest. I've heard about the Clippers might be interested for a Paul George swap. So there are some teams that might be interested, but they are afraid based on what's going on now. And I wouldn't blame them because James Harden needs to show that he is interested in playing basketball and that he is going to be professional and that he would be open to other teams. If he doesn't show up or want to play for other teams, then you don't have any leverage at this point for the Rockets. And they can't ask for what they want. And the league would know, like, hey, we could get him, or it's not even worth because he's going to leave in 2 years. So I think James Harden at this point, if he really doesn't want to leave and go somewhere else, because Brooklyn is not even that desperate at this point. And supposedly Kevin Durant said, we've never had talk with each other, having James Harden playing with the Nets, which I doubt because I feel like Kevin Durant and James Harden are friends and would have probably talked about it or mentioned it. And so for him to say if we've never talked about it seems pretty hard, especially a workout or something like that. But I would definitely say at this point it just looks really bad for both sides. And so hopefully there's some progress this week. If not, James Harden, you're kind of going to be playing or being stuck for another 2 years. Again, it's a game of chicken if Tillman Fertitta is willing to make things uncomfortable like he claims. But again, he did say he was not going to break up the team or he was willing to go over the luxury tax, but his actions spoke the opposite. So it will be interesting if he is going to move James Harden and at what price. Again, I've talked about starting all over because I don't think James Harden is a winner in that sense, but he has done a lot for the organization. But it just looks like it's now a bad, messy divorce at this point. But I would still hold out for the whole farm. If you could get draft picks, a young superstar, or some nice building pieces together, because there was a point where Daryl Morey was able to piece players together or a team, an average team, even before James Harden, but it still made it to the playoffs with some good role players. So that's how you could trade those role players for some up-and-coming superstars that way. But we'll see how they're going to manage this and navigate this whole situation. So go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe, and comment below what you think and how this is going to get resolved, or if this will get resolved before training camp, or is this going to start another 2 years for James Harden. All right, and thanks for your support.